Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another installment of the White Lotus Dojo. My name is Brian, and today we're going to be overviewing two of my favorite ladies this side of the time stream. But before we go too far, I just wanted to let you guys know that uploads are going to be a little bit funky for the next little bit, just because I'm trying to get back into the upload schedule since I've basically fully recovered. But since that time, most of my uploads are going to be a little bit bored, so things might be a little bit late. Just a little bit, though. So Spider-Man will probably be on Sunday, and that's basically about it. So, let's do the ladies. This is going to be nice because I don't think I built any competitive variations for Scarlett. So we're going to be in her default skin, which is nice because I don't see her default skin enough, in my opinion. And then the competition, Kitini. And we're going to go against different versions of Kitana, because I don't have a single competitive variation because, like Scarlett, there's a lot to unpack. But let's continue onwards, and we're going to unleash our battles in... Not the Marvel Deadpool. God, could you imagine if that guy actually made it into this game? That would both be fun and horrifying. Although if the rumors that Mortal Kombat will become a Microsoft property come true, then hey, things could get interesting. Okay, we are going to get started in the Hot Pierce variation and just cover overall Universal Normals. Actually, now that I think about it, I'm gonna do Crimson Kiss, and we're just gonna talk about Scarlett. She's an unusual kind of zoner. Traditionally, she's not full keep away. She's got decent projectiles, but she works from about this range. You know, slice and stab and use her weapons to her advantage. But one of her key weaknesses is that she's got gaps everywhere, and we're gonna talk more about that when we finally get to it. So we're just going to talk about any normals that don't combo into anything, so except for uppercut. So we've got Scythe Slam, Crack the Whip, Reaching Whip I'll talk about because it's an interesting kind of sweep, her hop attacks, her get up attacks, and her throws, because I feel that those are all very important things to talk about. Starting with Scythe Slam, it's this overhead with really good range. And its crushing blow requirement is that this hits twice in a row. Now, unfortunately, the crushing blow damage you actually get is not that great. It's 180, which is less than an uppercut crushing blow, and you get less reward for it. Now, sure, you might think, oh, well, after this hit, I could go for a low punishment for a combo. Well, you would think so, but she doesn't really even have anything that low combos even in the corner, so... See, I didn't even get my standing one, so... Or down one out of that, so... Sure, I could get basically the same amount of damage in the corner, but then I'd have to go for this again and risk my neck, because this thing is punishable as hell on block. Look at that, it's minus 17, and even from this range, most characters will be able to punish this. And if you're too close, well, now you're just in some serious trouble. Whereas this string, which we'll talk about, is minus 1. So stand blocking against Scarlett is generally the name of the game. If you see her land that scythe, just stand block. All you're gonna do if you guess wrong is lose about the same amount of damage. It's not that great as far as rewards go. And if it's flawless, she's minus 22. She's way less block. She's way less. So an opponent can flawless block and unleash a faster fatal blow to punish her for trying for this crushing blow. It's a little bit rough, to say the least. However, I love Scarlett too much, so I'm not going to let that stop me. Crack the Whip is a 19-frame high. Oh, I forgot to mention, Scythe Slam is 22 frames on startup. This can hit at the start of the round, but sometimes it won't. It just depends on where the hitboxes lie at the time. So if they move forward, they're going to get clipped with this. You're not going to see this too often, even though it is special cancelable. Just because it's a high. It's a standalone high that does only this amount of damage. But because you're not going to see it too often, this can actually act as a relatively cheeky anti-air. You're at about this range and they decide to try and jump, backdash, and then catch them with the whip. And you'd be surprised at how effective this actually is. In fact, I'm going to get Katana to do that. So, I'm going to get her to jump in. Look at that. I clipped her with that. But the problem is, remember, it's a high. So if it's a high, so this could warrant a crushing blow punish. On block, it's -2. So it's safe at maximum range, and even at close range, this is only -3. It's not the end of the world if this connects. On flawless block, it's still -3. So it's not actually that negatively affected by an opponent trying to smack you with this. So the fact that she kind of has Catwoman's whip attack as a standing normal, it's a little bit slower than Catwoman's, but it's still pretty decent. So don't underestimate Crack the Whip. It could actually come in handy at certain points. And speaking of whips, Reaching Whip is a 15-frame low. This is her sweep. This is her sweep, and look at the range that she has. It's start of the match every time. So you can catch an opponent with this or this. It's about the same amount of damage, so you can do this, and then you can whiff a sweep on purpose in order to make them think, oh, you're going to go for it. And then you're going to overhead for that crushing blow, which is not that great, but hey, a crushing blow is a crushing blow. Punishing Spear is her short hop overhead. It's 9 frames and is active for 3. Oh, also can I talk about how far-reaching her jump normals are? Look at this. Jump 2, jump 1, jump 3. All have really good range. But anyway, so Punishing Spear is 9 frames, but Crimson Kick is 8. It's 8 frames, just as active, and has more range. Look, from here, the spear's not going to hit, nor is the boot. But from here, I believe, the spear's not going to hit there, but the boot has a... Is it really the same range? It looks like it actually is a... Okay. I'm pretty sure it is the same range. I thought the boot had a little more range, but I mean, 8 frames off of a short hop and it's an overhead? That's not bad at all. And it's active for about the same. So these are kind of interchangeable attacks if you really want to use one or the other. Oh, I forgot to mention, if you block the sweep at maximum range, she's -12. So at this range, she's relatively safe. There's not going to be too many things that are going to catch her at this range. At close range, however, it's still -12, which means, punish. Punishing the short hops is also relatively easy because the kick is safer at -12, but the spear is -17. And if you flawless block, -17 for the sweep. And yeah, it looks like, is it the same? I think it's the same. No, it isn't. So these moves both gained an extra 5 frames of punishability. So these turn into -17. This turns into -22. So the opponent's on point with their flawless blocks, or not even on point with their flawless blocks. If they're just blocking, they can punish. Particularly the sweep, if it's relatively close. Bloody Boots is her wake-up launcher. And I have it set to repeat when I want it to be on the right stick. There we go. So, Bloody Boots is her wake-up launcher. It's 9 frames, has decent range, and can allow for combos. So this would be something you would also do on flawless block. Block and then wake up into boots and kick that way. Side Slice is the invincible. It has respectable range, hitting from about here, and there's also 9 frames. On block, both of these attacks, I'm gonna redo this. Yeah. The boots are -13, the swipe is -5. However, if the opponent knocks you down, yeah, this should do the trick. And flawless. Oh. It's safe enough for you to block, but unfortunately, I wish it would only do it. Let's do random. That ought to do it. There we go. She's -9 if it's flawless block, so technically punishable, but and at that range, it's almost certain that she will. And if you reversal punish the boots, it's -13 if you flawless block the boots. So again, another example of moves that are made less safe if you flawless block. Scarlett has a lot of those. Some of the last few characters that we talked about didn't have all that many. And now we gotta talk about her throws, which means I gotta put crushing blows back on, because both of them have crushing blows. And it's exactly the same requirements as you would expect. It's 310 damage across the board, and that's the range you get from forward throw. And this is the range you get from back throw. You get about the same amount of range, so Scarlett can benefit from this directly because she'll be able to lob projectiles all day. Excuse me. Now let's talk strength. A lot of these strings are relatively easy. Marrow Massacre comes off of a 7-frame high, so it's a good punish. And the whole thing, is relatively gapless, which is good for Scarlett. Just 1, 2, it doesn't have any gaps. There is a flawless block gap in Marrow Massacre right at the end, but you can throw out a projectile at the end to kind of force the opponent back. This will be your ender for certain situations like this. Maybe tentacle will be better there. There you go. So you get some decent damage and some knockback, which is not bad at all. However, like I said, there's a flawless block gap in this. So, and I have the reversals on still. Turn those off. She's -1 if she commits the whole thing, and I believe -1 across the board. Yeah, okay, so she's punishable by Raijin if she stops here, but if she commits, she's back to -1. But if she flawless blocks, there's a flawless block gap in the middle, which means that the opponent would be able to get a flawless block reversal, especially if their flawless block reversal is actually fairly decent. So we'll do step back. Yeah, see what I mean? You can interrupt that if you're on point. But if you're late... Even if you're late, you can interrupt that with the invincible. What about the launch? Okay, you can catch them if they try for the launch. Unless I'm willing to bet they do it immediately. Yeah, if they do it immediately, they'll be able to catch you. Which is not great. Let's make this all. And like I said, you get a lot of flawless block options out of this. But if they do it late, they have all of that range. And most of the time, if you get this, even if it's delayed, most of the time Scarlett will be safe if she's able to do this. And they try to punish, but they aren't fast enough on the buttons. I'm just trying to think here for real quick. Because I think I missed some stuff. Yeah, Whip is not going to let that happen. Scythe will let that happen. Sweep at max range won't let it happen, but closer range it will. And of course, nastiness. So you got to be careful with Scarlet. If you're not ready for all of her gaps, you're going to get blown up a lot. Thicker Than Water is another example of one such string. This move has a gap in the middle for flawless block, so flawless block, flawless block. But the nice thing is that it knocks the opponent back, and if it crushing blows via counter or punish, you knock the opponent back, get some Oki, and you have damage over time. Meaning that you do this, and then dash in. You can throw the opponent, make them taste a lot of damage, begin to zone, and if they have, say, fail the throw tech, next time they get close, make them eat their words. However, you're gonna hear me say that a lot. -3 for the whole thing, -13 for the sword. So this is extremely punishable. And like I said, flawless blockable all the way through. Unless they're early on the blocks, I just noticed. If they're too early on the wake-ups, at the very least if their name is Katana, oh, it's gotta be delayed. I wonder if... Yeah, so once in a blue moon you're gonna get this, but that's not incredibly likely. What's more likely gonna happen is that you're gonna do this and then the opponent's gonna flawless block both times. And on flawless block, the sword is -18, so more punishable, which is a little bit bonkers. Did I? Okay, good. For a second I thought I set the AI to be back on. I didn't mean to do that. Ding. Yeah, so I would use this to whip punish. They whip and attack, you punish with this bad boy, crushing blow damage via a DOT. Quick transfuse. Oh, the end is 9. Comes off of this high. I should mention that the back one is a mid. This is a meterless launcher, and a lot of Scarlet players, if they want to cash out their damage, they'll do this. They'll do this, loop it into itself, and then they'll do either Marrow Massacres buttons or either for kick strings to maximize damage. So that's what they'll do at close range a lot. You'll see this thrown out a lot to try and catch you. However, it's 13 frames. There is no flawless block gap in there, fortunately. So they have to hold it. But if the opponent blocks this thing, normally neutral. Slightly overcommitted, -5. Fully overcommitted, -11. -11, of course, means that just about anything is going to punish, especially since she moves in on you. Throws, flawless block reversals, jabs. Most of your basic punishes are going to catch her at this range if she does this. And if it's flawless block, the standing one is still neutral. But let's see. I just want that bit to miss. There we go. She's actually slightly safer. Only marginally safer if she is flawless blocked, but that's probably just because of range at -10. So generally speaking, if an opponent blocks this, if they don't duck under it and uppercut punish, that is, if they just punish this just by blocking, that's going to be something you'll see a lot. So if you're Scarlet and you want that damage, just be extremely mindful of how you're going to get it and make sure you maximize your potential. Otherwise, you're kind of in serious trouble, because all of a sudden you whipped a combo, you're in their face, and then they can just wake up. Not a good time. Quick Transfusion comes off of a mid that reaches with about the same range as her sweep. And then she can finish the string with an advancing low that knocks down in a sweep style. So this is really good for catching opponents at range, and in fact, I suspect is actually a half-decent anti-air. Yeah. On its own, you can do this, and then cancel into a projectile to kind of reset the situation. Also, in case you're wondering, sometimes the overhead can anti-air, other times it can't. And I've actually had it happen more than once where I've got opponents out of the air with this, and then it does a crushing blow. It doesn't happen too often, but when it does, it's actually kind of tasty. But here's the thing. You know what I'm going to say next. Punishable all the way through. At this range, sure, it's -7, so not a whole lot's going to punish you if they overcommit. But at close range, still -7. But with all the 7 and 6 frame punishes out there, one of them is bound to connect. And of course, if you think, oh, I'm going to not overcommit to be safe, don't. It's actually -12. So if you accidentally connect the string on somebody who's blocking, actually finish it. At least that's what I would say to you if this wasn't a thing you could do. Oh, I see, because it goes into it, it's not actually punishable. But there we go. So if they think they're safe, show them they're not. Look at that. Show them who's boss and punish that. And if we go back here and do flawless blocks. Flawless blocks are a thing too. Turning this whole string to -12. So if they got their flawless block timings down, even if they just flawless block the last hit, you're left -12 and punishable. So be wary of that. Here. Then there's Simple Slaughter. A fairly decent launcher that, unfortunately, you're not going to get a whole lot of options of from mid-screen, because guess what? It's not special cancelable. But in the corner, you can actually get combos. So this would be your primary combo extender in the corner. So instead of going for this, which is risky because it's high and punishable, you can actually footsie them with back 3, which is a low, catch them with this, and then all of a sudden, they're forced to eat damage. If I didn't fuck up the input. Know what I mean? However, the opponent will be expecting this. If they're smart, they will be expecting that. So, -12 on block, -5 on block, but with a huge gap. Huge enough that I think this is the one that I should be able to punish with from standing. Oh, really? There's a 29 frame gap there. How come? Oh, wait. I was actually good with my flawless blocks. There we go. I can flawless block in between there, and now she's -10, which means punishable. It's not quite Scorpion level bad, where if they try for the 2-1-2, then they can get that free punish, but still unsafe. So be careful throwing this out. Coagulation. This was recently buffed to have the second kick be a mid, but originally this was a double high, meaning that the opponent had all day to just crouch and uppercut punish. And this is going to be your general ender of a sort, because launches, and you usually have enough time to throw out something like a tentacle or a projectile in the corner. This is what you're going to see a lot, because while this string, bleeding, is very similar and leaves the opponent standing, it ends with a low. So it's a little trickier to land into. So you do this to force the opponent in the corner, and then once they're in the corner, get coagulation off. If, you know, your timing was actually half decent. And then continue your shenanigans from there. However, both of these kick strings, I believe, are still unsafe. So we'll see. Standing 1 is actually +1. Finish all the way through, she's +6. So actually this is the only way she's going to be plus. Which is nice, because remember, that second kick is a mid. But I believe there's a flawless block gap in there. No, there is not. So, flawless block that, she's still +1. Flawless block that, she's -4. So you'll be able to reverse it. But general rule of thumb, she's plus if she lands this. She's +6, so be mindful. And then bleeding starts off of a mid, which is -6, but is made safe-ish, -1, basically neutral, with crouching. But if they flawless block, there's a flawless block gap in there that turns it into -6, and the mid stays -6. So, -6 throughout, if they flawless block it, which means, you know, reversals and scary shenanigans there. That's it for... That's basically it for the combos. Let's talk about universal special moves. Yeah, we'll talk about universal special moves, but to do that, we gotta go into tournament variation 1, Heart Pierce. There we go. There's me girly. I'm also gonna change it so that we're gonna deal with Dark Reflection Katana. The one thing I should make note of about Heart Pierce is that a lot of Heart Pierce's options are based around healing and staying alive. So there's gonna be a lot of things here that are gonna be based more around staying alive with Scarlet and getting out of dangerous situations. But that's in the non-universal specials. We're here for the universal specials, which we've got quite a few of. And that's it. So, Bloodshot. Fast projectile. Does 70 damage and travels relatively quickly across the screen. So it's mere frames faster than the normal ice ball. But this has a nice benefit. If this connects and you amplify when it makes contact, Scarlet will heal by a little more than the blood actually does, by 7.6%. So what you can do is end your punishes in this with heals that actually scale, which is a little bit strange, but it makes sense. You don't want the heals to be too broken, right? So you do this, you catch the opponent, and bam, you get a heal. And this is universal, meaning that Scarlet every time has a way to heal. And before you think, I'm gonna force Scarlet to jump so she misses this. That's not how this works. Note that it tracks her, and even with one of Heart Pierce's unique moves, it follows right back around. However, there is a limited amount of time where it tracks, so... I'm sorry, did that just... Hold on. Okay, so I don't think I timed that right. Or maybe I did, because I didn't realize how good this was at tracking. Oh, come on. This was working for me last time. There we go. Look at that. I ended up on the other side of the screen, and it still caught up to me. So this heal is almost unavoidable for the Scarlet player. So you can even do fancy schmancy stuff like that just to guarantee your heal. Blood Ball is a lot slower, both in travel time and in startup. But its benefit is that it restands the opponent. So if you were to catch an opponent, say, jumping in, trying to avoid your other projectiles, they sit on it and it restands them. And if they restand at close enough to Scarlet, she can enforce pressure because she's plus 42. She's not going to be able to get combos off on this thing, so in the corner she's not going to be like this, that, and then get a combo, but she'll be plus enough where she can enforce her pressure. So Blood Ball is not to be sneezed at, especially in Variation 2. Blood Spatter is her armor breaking attack, and it has proximity and does decent damage, and in the corner makes for a really good ender, especially on Amplify. If you get off of a coagulation on the ground, you can get continued combos. But the main reason why you want to use this in the corner is because of its ability to break armor and what it does for the opponent if they break armor. So we'll just do this, do that, ensure. It breaks the armor, and on its own, you're not going to get too much off of it. You might get a poke. And even then, it's not that great. But if they do break away and you don't have the meter, it's like, okay, it's not awful, but it's one of those, okay, why did I do that? You know what I mean? Where I could have traded this for a little more damage. That's where the Amplify comes in. That's where if Scarlet has meter, this becomes scary. Watch this. Look at that. It launched to high heaven. Even high enough for me to get a coagulation and potentially a blood spatter. Keep in mind I'm doing this on fast too. Look at that. Almost 400 damage, and I got some health back because I decided to spend the bar. That's not bad at all. And I believe I can actually amplify it twice. I believe I can amplify it twice in a combo? Oh, absolutely. And that's only if I really wanted to. I didn't have to. So there. Now she's plus 30 and can enforce her pressure that way and did almost 400 damage, which is not bad damage for Scarlet at all. Then we have... Oh, and I actually forgot to mention a few things that I really should not be forgetting. Bloodshot and Blood Ball being projectiles are unsafe at close range, and the further back you are, the safer you are. Blood Ball, however, at close range is -3, whereas Bloodshot at close range is -5. So this is a good way to keep yourself safe as you're zoning. So if the opponent is blocking, then force him to eat a couple of projectiles. Okay, so for a second I thought that delayed. And then Blood Spatter is -16 at close range, and on Amplify is still -16. So don't throw this out when they're blocking, otherwise you're in big trouble. Blood Trail is next. Wait, I almost forgot. Flawless Block. This... Yeah, so the frame data doesn't really change, but I don't... Also, if I remember right... Yeah, it has to hit the opponent raw to get the heal. You can't heal from a block, thankfully. Then we have Blood Trail. Let's reset the situation back to original. there. Blood Trail. This is a low projectile, which is really good because low projectiles force you to crouch, block, or jump. And when used in conjunction with Blood Ball, the opponent is going to be in trouble. And on Amplify, it does a little more damage and restricts the opponent for just a little bit. Not enough for a combo, but enough to slow down an advancement and maybe allow Scarlet in to try and pressure you with standing one or down one. And the nice thing about Blood Trail as well is it's actually a counter zoning tool. If Katana were to throw a fan at me, and I knew the timing of the fans, I can actually go underneath the fans. I just have to be a little bit careful with how I do that. But, look at that. I was able to counter zone. And even if we trade, I have the advantage because Blood Trail does that little extra damage. And if I amplify, it's 90. So I can even have it where I catch the opponent, block the fan, and then go for something else. It's really not a bad projectile at all. The only thing is that I believe on block it's minus at close range. But again, you're not throwing this out at close range. At least I hope you're not. There's no reason for you to. The further back you go, the safer it is. And on Amplify, it's minus 22. So do not, especially don't throw out the Amplify at point blank range, please. And of course, Flawless Block won't change a frame data because it never changes frame data for projectiles. Then there's Blood Tentacle. You're going to see a lot of Scarlets use this as their ender because it's high damage. Ooh, forgot to turn that off. Set off, thank you. Because it puts the opponent full screen. And this is a true mid. And this has 4 different ranges. We have close, mid, far, and full. And the tentacle's entire, and where the tentacle is basically its hitbox. Look at that. It shoved Katana across, even though its first active frame was licking Katana's back. Ugh, weird visual. But still, this is a really good tool, but here's the thing. Most opponents can generally jump over this, and if it is blocked, Katana will have a chance to move in, because on block, it's minus 3, even at full screen. At close range, it's minus 6, meaning it's technically punishable by Raijin. And if it's flawless blocked, well, minus 16. And even at full screen, it's minus 14, allowing Katana a chance to move in, to jump and maybe get a dash off, or if you're Cabal, just try running. Why not? She's minus 16. The only thing she's going to be able to do is block, or if she's really godlike, jab you out of it. And if they don't see that dash coming, then that's a free combo off of something that's supposed to be useful for Scarlet. Which it is. But as you've noticed, all but one of her universal moves is a projectile. Bloodshot, Blood Ball, Blood Trail, and Blood Tentacle. It's all about the zoning and keep away with this character. Which is kind of an annoying way to play, especially since it's kind of an annoying thing to deal with, especially since Scarlet can heal off of one of her damn projectiles and then keep you out in order to keep up her heals. But if you know how to counter a zoner, which is generally speaking teleport, knock them down, force them into a corner, get close to them, and then have them sign their death warrant, Scarlet is really good at that. Scarlet is kind of like a mirrored Sub-Zero. She excels at long range, and at about this range, she can handle herself pretty well. She's got options for this range. But at close range, her only safe options come off of standing 1, or standing 4, or forward 4. These are her only 3 options, and they all can be flawless blocked and punished. Everything else she does at close range is going to be punishable. So she's like a mirrored Sub-Zero when it comes to how you're supposed to deal with her. Now let's talk about abilities and what this variation brings to the table. And we're going to start off with the worst ability that Scarlet could have ever gotten. Like God Ray in V1 Ascension, or like in Ascension Cool, but this actively hurts Scarlet. I mean, at least God Ray has the Tornado Beam properties. It is just useless. This is less than useless. Blood Ritual. Notice the health bars. I did it for the whole time, and I took 80 damage. She took 40. She took half of the damage I did from a move that I'm supposed to be able to use. What is the point of this? Why does this move exist? Sure, you can hold it. You can use it as a pseudo cancel. It's 52 frames of startup regardless. This is awful. And you might think, oh, does it restrict the opponent's movements? At the very least, like, does it do something to, like, maybe it locks the opponent in place and forces them to take that damage? No. No, it doesn't. Watch this. You're going to set this up and then do Blood Ritual. Look at that. She punished me. Look at this. I'm going to set it. 2, 3. Do the thing. She beat me out of my own stance because, guess what? She's able to move in that. The only reason why Blood Ritual is useful is because it does unblockable damage. That's it. So far as I can tell, this is next to useless. Like, if I have a stance hold, she doesn't take more damage, she isn't locked in place, there's no reason to use this. You have to make this move much stronger in order to make it even worth the use. Like, what I would do, first off, is reverse who's taking the goddamn damage. Okay? So, like, have Scarlet take half the damage and have the opponent take the 10 damage. Sure, this means that Scarlet could still kill herself, but at least it's worth trying. And then, what I would also do, and this is for me buffing Blood Ritual, I would have it restrict the opponent's options. Maybe not all of them. Maybe have them able to move in and do single normal, so like a poke or an uppercut or what have you. But that's it. Move and do it. So it forces the opponent to, try and stop her, but Scarlet doesn't get punished for doing her own attack, basically. This Blood Ritual is awful. I hate that this is thrown in this variation. What I don't hate being thrown in this variation is Dagger Dance, a 9-frame parry. This is really fast for most attacks in the game. And while she's holding it, it's active. Meaning it's active for up to 208 frames. And then it has 20 frames of recovery, so you can punish this thing. But the tricky thing is that I've talked to people about this before, and one of the big things is that they genuinely don't know if Scarlet is parrying or blocking based off of how similar their poses are. And what I recommend is twofold. Hard to do with the music, but listen carefully at Scarlet. She makes a noise every time she does it, whereas if she blocks, no noise. And if you need visual cues, watch the position of her arms compared to watch the position of her arms. Her right arm, it's especially tricky if the main arm that you want to watch is behind that cape. But if she's facing the screen, watch her right arm. And if she's over on the right side, watch her left arm. Watch the arm that doesn't have the blade. See how she holds it kind of at a 45-degree angle? Whereas here, she's holding it straight up and covering her chest. That's one of your keys. And then you can watch how she's blocking based off of the angle of her blade in a similar fashion. More downturned means that she's blocking. Whereas if she's holding it at almost 45 degrees, she's parrying. So why is it important to know if she's parrying or not? Well, if she punishes a standing normal that isn't low, she gets sweep damage for free. Or if she amplifies it, she gains 9.5% of her health back and does 15%. And this has a crushing blow, where if you parry the opponent at least twice, the third parry or later, on amplified, does a crushing blow that does big boy damage. notes the damage that she gets. And particularly if the opponent hasn't customized their Scarlet or is in a skin that has all of this fluffy stuff going on, it can be really hard to tell the difference. Because look, is she blocking or is she parrying? Remember what I taught you guys. Blocking or parrying? Parrying or blocking? Which one is she actually doing? That's important to remember. And you might think, well, how do I beat her? Well, the one thing that always works is a low. Lows almost always beat parries like this, as well as jumping attacks, and in this case, projectiles. Fatal blows will also punish the parry, so... See, I'm parrying, right? And look, it's all counters. So, whereas if I was actually blocking, I could actually crouch. And then I can actually block stuff. So, the Scarlet player has to be careful when to throw out her parries and watch and see if the opponent actually knows what they're doing and knows how to tell the difference. Another way that you know how to tell the difference is depending on if a Scarlet decides to try and special cancel this thing. So, special cancel on block, and then cancel into... You can't do this on block. You can't block that quickly. But, if the opponent doesn't know that, and let's say we get a flawless block going, and then have the opponent and then have her try to do a invincible wake up. How about? Oh, damn it! I gotta like get her in the corner and shit. This is bonkers. I forgot that because her invincible wake up is. There we go. This can catch flawless block attacks as well. So be mindful of that if you're trying to wake up on her. Or a flawless blocker. Be careful. If she throws a parry, she might get her health back, and then you're kind of back to square one. Finally, we have the Blood Port. We have Scarlet's Teleport. It's not the best teleport out there, but it's really good for a key reason. Get past projectile, force the opponent back, and then reset the neutral in your favor. So, get past the projectile. I'll do an example. Say you're zoning and the opponent's getting tired of it. Then you can do whatever you want. And throw them back. You also have a few other versions of teleport. You can teleport in front of the opponent, like this, for one defensive bar. You can teleport in place to fake him out for one bar. Or you can pull one of these, which is teleport further than immediately behind. This costs 2 defensive bar. This costs a breakaway. And the gauge does not cool off that quick, does not warm up that quickly. So this is, the reason why they did this was because Scarlet is really good at this range, so they figured why should it cost her a bar to be able to get out of the corner and have distance situations. I don't like that change, but I can see the methodology behind it. Time to move on to Variation 2, known as Blood Drive. Blood Drive has a 2-slot ability that, at first I wasn't sure why it was 2 slots, but now I can kind of see it. You can amplify the Blood Ball to go either faster or slower, and this can cover a lot of situations. So, here's the normal speed of the Blood Ball. Here it is when it's slowed down. And then here it is sped up. Same thing, but you're changing the speed. And hell. And, I mean, hell. Look at this. She does this, then she can move in, or she can use the slow Blood Ball to cover her movements. And remember, the opponent has to crouch, neutral crouch, to beat the Blood Ball. So you can dash in, and then enforce scythe pressure. For instance. Or go fast to use it as a standard projectile. It's not as fast as Bloodsport, or Bloodspout? Bloodshot. But it is still a lot faster. And if the opponent's trying to think they have the timing down for normal Blood Ball, you can do this to mess up their timing and then clip them with that if they jump too early or jump too late. Then there's Cell Siphon. This pseudo trance leaves the opponent at leaves Scarlet at +4, and leaves the opponent close enough to throw them. And if she amplifies, she gets a second healing option. Not as great as Bloodshot, but she's still healing. And leaves the opponent still at +4. But here's the thing. Here's the thing about all of that, right? What if the opponent blocks Cell Siphon? First off, blocking the Blood Ball, same basic idea. But what happens if you block Cell Siphon? She's -53. She's so minus, it's literally almost an in-game second. At maximum range, which as you can see is the opponent's pushing back. And the recovery is 77 frames in and of itself. At point blank range, she's still -53. Meaning that I can literally, as Kitana, pull one of these out of my hat. Yeah. A neutral jump punch punish. What do I have here? Oh, right. Sorry. Sorry, I got a little bit sidetracked. But, yeah, it's incredibly unsafe on block. So, don't throw this out willingly. Or, willy-nilly. Willy-nilly. There we go. Oh, and if it's flawless blocked, kiss your ass goodbye. Because it's still -53. So, be extremely careful with that. Don't throw this out willy-nilly. Use this as a combo ender. And you can throw in a low or an overhead or at closer range. Go for a throw. That's it for variation 2. Let's talk about variation 3. Hemorrhage. Crimson Shield, Boiling Point, and Red Mist. So far I haven't talked about what moves replace what, because so far nothing's really replaced anything. However, now there is a move that replaces one of Scarlett's key tools, but we'll get to it later. First, Crimson Shield. This is a buff that can be activated on knockdown, and as the description notes, allows Scarlett, let's see if I can, to take less damage. So that's 50, that's 42.5. So she's taking 25% less damage while this is active. So, but because buffs like this go away during cinematic events, so be careful of that. But once Crimson Shield is active, Scarlet doesn't need to worry quite so much about damage, especially if she has the life lead. But when it does go away, you need to be wary. Next up is Boiling Point. This is one of those back-forward 4 options alongside custom exclusive Retribution and Cell Siphon. But Boiling Point does not heal on Amplify. It just does big boy damage. So, you can do this. And look at that. 1 bar, 30% mid-screen. But here's the thing. It's trickier to catch opponents that are airborne because it's a low. So sometimes you might want to not launch them. Or if you're going to launch them, use 1, 2, 4 to catch them, because it'll put them close enough to the ground where it'll connect. And like the tentacle before, boiling point has different ranges. Close, mid, far, very far. But here's the thing. On block, it's minus 19 at full screen. So you can imagine, at close range, still being minus 19 makes it hella punishable. And if it's flawless blocked, whoo, minus 29. Hella punishable. So, use this to end your combos. And use this kind of in the same way you would use Tentacle, because you don't have Tentacle. You have Red Mist, which at close range does 6 damage and stuns the opponent. And does brief damage over time, bolstering the damage Scarlet can unleash with close range strings. See, that was 213 instead of 193. It's not much, but sometimes that little bit is all you need. And in fact, this can help you buff the damage of your throws. Not by much again, but remember, every little bit counts. And you can't amplify this, but what you can do is restand the opponent with this, and then enforce your pressure. Keep yourself plus, they're forced to take this damage, next thing you know, they're getting closer and closer to death. But, note the input. She doesn't have Tentacle Inspiration because of Red Mist.
So much blood.
Yes, indeed. So, with Red Mist, you're sacrificing one of your best zoning tools. Granted, you get one. Granted, you get something similar in exchange. But still, you're sacrificing one of your best zoning tools for something that helps bolster your close-up game. So a lot of people will pick Hemorrhage because they want to be a little more up-close and personal, but that's not what Scarlet's really good at, remember. Scarlet is better at this range, where she can enforce her long-ranged weapons. So, while Red Mist is good in paper, and especially in the corner, if the opponent knows that Scarlet's pressure isn't really there, it can be a death sentence for our red-headed girl. Now let's close things out with her super move, which is Bloody Fun. This is one of the fastest fatal blows in the game. It's 13 frames. I was going to say, see how fast it is, but I didn't have it active. Boom! See how fast it is? 13 frames. And it's a mid. So, you use this in the same way that you would expect to use it. And a combo with this thing. Get some good damage, and more importantly, get some good range out of this. Look, we're in the corner and she's got all this range. Now, if you are a crafty little bugger and remembered that the explosion, which is in this variation, which is in all variations, can stop breakaway. I need to set that up. I thought the blood explosion was... You can use it in the corner to get ridiculous damage for Scarlet. This required a crushing blow and an armor break and a fatal blow. But your reward is 56% damage and distance. So nothing to shake a stick at. Don't forget to be awesome, and next time we're going to take a look at the Princess of Edenia, Kitana.